Hey y'all, welcome to episode 87 of the Late Night Vision Show. My name's Jason. I'm the owner of Outdoor Legacy, and I've got my co-host Hans from the Hans East Texas YouTube channel. What's going on tonight, Hans?
Hey, well, if you're listening right now, it is after the new year, so happy new year. Hope everybody has a great 2020. We had our Christmas episode last week, and my wife yesterday, she's like, oh yeah, I need to go back and listen to that because I need to find out all the Christmas presents that you bought yourself that you haven't told me about yet.
that was a dangerous show.
And I was like, oh, I played it off like it was no big deal. I told her everything I got. I'm pretty sure I don't think I left anything out. But,
you don't think you left anything out?
Yeah.
Well, you said the new year. This is hard to believe, but this is the third season of the Late Night Vision Show.
Yeah,
we started
87.
Yeah, so let's see. We started in 2018, and then we did all of 2019, and now we're into a new decade, 2020.
Yeah,
which is weird. So yeah, this thing's been going a while.
It has been. We're coming up pretty soon on episode 100, which will be good. I'm sure we're going to have something special planned for that. We do got some good shows coming. I mean, we're getting right into the thick of it with SHOT Show coming up at the end of this month, and we've got some special things that we're going to be doing for that. We're not really prepared to talk about it right now, but you and I have not told the story yet about you and I's last hunt together. So I went down to Nacogdoches to see my good friend Jason and to hunt a little bit with him. And it was, of course, as always, we picked some pretty bad weather days.
Yeah.
It was colder than a well digger's butt, if you've ever heard that expression before. But so you and I go out with the sole purpose of trying to either call some hogs or call some coyotes, and we kind of figured that being so cold, it would be a good coyote night.
And it was a clear, pretty
was.
night. I mean, I really thought that it would be a good night for coyotes.
Jason and I's style, especially when we're together, we don't like to get out of eyesight of the truck. That's how close we like to be. So, it's a very, special way that we have to try to maneuver through the properties we're hunting because we don't want to be too far away from the heat of being able to jump in the truck. But the funny story that I'll tell, and it happened at the end of the night. We had been calling for a long time. I think we actually had got back to your house after going to some properties. Didn't see anything at all. No hogs.
No.
It was really weird. Didn't see any coyotes.
We didn't even hardly see any deer. It was a bad night.
Yeah, it was really, really weird. It wasn't windy at all. You would think on paper it would be the best conditions night. But so we go back to your house, and it was almost midnight at that point, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And we thought, you know what? You've been seeing some hogs down at your place in the woods. We're going to go down there and see if we can call them out. We go down there, sit for probably half an hour. Nothing really at all. We're getting out of the stand that we were in, which was funny. Jason's got this very nice deer stand that sits way up. Well, to me, it's way off the ground. But me, I'm not a small guy. Trying to maneuver up there and get in there without falling and busting my butt was pretty funny. But
well, yeah, and my reasoning, I normally wouldn't be in a deer stand calling coyotes, but we were freezing to death.
Freezing
and
to death.
We were tired, and we didn't want to have to carry our shooting sticks all the way across the pasture. So I said, let's just walk over there, and we'll just go get in that deer stand, and we'll set the caller out and on the ground, and we'll call from there and be a little bit warmer, but I don't think it was any warmer.
Yeah, and Jason and I like to chit-chat. We chit-chat a lot when we're hunting, so we got up there. We're calling and talking and stuff, and we get out of the deer stand, and as we're getting out of the deer stand, we're walking across Jason's pond dam. He's got a big, tall dam that sits way off the ground. You can get a good eagle-eye perspective of the property, and saw this coyote really messing with this rabbit. You know how sometimes coyotes or other prey, or other animals will play with their food before they eat it, just kind of messing around with it. Well, it looked like he was playing with this little rabbit, right before he was going to eat it. So we squat down, and I'm sitting there lip squeaking at this coyote 200 yards away, and he runs off in the woods, and I'm trying to look through the woods to see where this coyote is. And I'm lip squeaking, and all of a sudden I feel like the Incredible Hulk with this animal lion strength of a claw grab my rib area and just squeeze. And first you said before you squeeze my ribs, before you crack my rib cage, you said, "What's that noise?"
Yeah, and I think I need to pick up a little bit of the story here, and then I'll let you go back to the action. But so Hans is sitting on the ground with his legs up because we don't have our shooting sticks. So he is as soon as he saw that coyote down there. Again, just imagine a super tall, 20 foot up, big pond dam, and then straight at the bottom of it, just a big flat pasture. And he's looking down there at that coyote. So he had just plopped down on the ground. Well, the ground's frozen. I'm not sitting my rear end down. So I squat down. So I'm not looking through my scope because I'm too tired. I don't really care. He can shoot the coyote. I want to go to bed. So I've got my
at that
binocular.
point, you were not very motivated.
I was not motivated. I was not. He's trying to lip squeak a coyote back from across the creek. It was just, not going to happen. So I'm squatted down. I mean, so close that our elbows are probably touching, and he is just nonstop lip squeaking. And I said, I think I hear something. And I've got that binocular up to my right eye, and I'm thinking, you know what? It sounds like it's coming up the back of this dam. And I'm thinking, you know what? We've got some cows out there, and I'll bet you that one of those cows is coming up here to see what we're doing. And I was kind of mad. And so I've still got the binocular to my right eye, and I just glance over with my left, and I see something right beside us. And then I realize it's a coyote, and I have no idea where it came from. So I reach over, and I stuck my thumb between two of his ribs. And I remember grinding my thumb in there going, there's one right here.
When he says right here, we're talking 10 feet away.
It was 10 foot. We stepped it off. It was 10 foot.
So we called a coyote up this pond dam. So he was going up this pond dam because he could not see the top where we were. So by the time we got to the top, he was right on top of us. And so somehow, and I still don't know how I did it, while I was turning my rifle to see what you were looking at, I was at least smart enough to hit the record button. And when I put my rifle right on that coyote, he's still sitting at 10 feet. He jumps back another 5 feet, and the video's great, but I put one right on his nose, basically on his mouth. And Jay, well, the first thing I said was
there's a lot of things said here that can't be repeated on the show after it all went down, because it happened fast.
One of the things I said, I don't know why I said after I shot, I was like, what was that? And I knew.
I flipped out when he said that.
So I knew it was either a fox or a coyote. I didn't mean to say, what was that? I meant to say, was that a fox or a coyote that I just shot?
And so when he said it, because I clearly saw it with my naked eye, saw it was a coyote, flipped over, spun over, saw it with the binocular. But this happened in an instant. But when he said, what was that? I immediately get this feeling of, number one, did this fool just shoot and he didn't know what it was? And number two, was I wrong? And that really a cow? I got nervous.
When he jumped back, I could see his rear end and his tail. So I knew it was something that not needed to live any longer. So, but then the next thing was, Jason asked, how did you not shoot one of my cows, which were down there too? And I could see behind before I shot, so I knew there wasn't anything directly behind it. But there was a lot of words we had to cut out of that video.
We were both pretty shook up because it was just like it happened fast.
It was very quick and happened fast, but it was fun. That's one of those things that we will probably never call a coyote. I hope we don't ever call a coyote in that close, but it was pretty cool. So, it was a success in my book, for our hunting trips, which you and our hunting trips are very, very exciting. Not really.
Yeah, not very uneventful. Well,
not
this
really.
wasn't. This was eventful. I'll say that it was. And Hans made a great shot. He blew brains everywhere. It was a quick shot too. And folks, we're not joking about it was 10 foot. It hops just kind of one jump down that dam and turned back and looked at us. And he shot it, dropped it. And when we stepped that off, it was 15 foot to where it was standing when he shot it. And I'm talking, it was on top of us. But what got me was it jumped when he spun over there on it, but it couldn't stand it. I mean, it should have run off, but it jumped to turn around. It could not stand because all that lip squeaking. It really thought something was there. It was probably going to eat my lunch.
I got it. Maybe I should tape myself lip squeaking and sell it to people. I don't know.
Maybe maybe Convergent wants to put that on their app. Hey, I tell you, man, we've already said it.
Mouse.
Now I'm going to be dumb mouse. I'm going to be calling them now. Well, good deal. Well, folks, listen, we've got a show planned for you tonight, and this is going to be an interesting topic. It's something that we get asked about a lot. I know that Hans and I both do, and it's actually a pretty good question. So it's 3 questions in one, and that is, what is the best time of the year to hunt hogs? What is the best weather to hunt hogs? And what is the best moon phase? And the moon phase is an interesting one because Hans, for years now, has been putting out. I say years. I think it has been a couple of years. Been putting out his weekly moon phase. Salooner times to hunt, the best times to hunt for that week, and he puts that out, and we put it on social media and share it around. And so Hans really likes to hunt by the moon, so there's some interesting stuff there. So
very controversial.
Very controversial. So we're going to kind of jump into this just because we do get a lot of questions about it, and I don't know that we're going to have all the definitive answers, but I think we're going to give our opinions on it anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And, one more thing that I'd say is we talked about it beforehand, but we didn't talk about what each of our opinions were. So we may be totally disagreeing here, but you're going to get each of our opinions on what we think on these topics.
Yeah. So, this, Jason, you're right. This is when I go hunt with people, when I take out friends, or if I take out people that I don't know that come out and hunt with me or whatever, even through social media, I get questions a lot, is the first one we're going to start with is weather. What is the best weather conditions to hunt hogs in? And some of this can apply to coyote hunting as well, but we're going to primarily focus on hogs on this show. But that's it. That's one of those questions that people ask a lot. And, like what Jason said, we're going to be giving our opinions. This is not anything backed up by science.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to the moon phases, but which moon phases is science, but how that relates to hog hunting has not been proven. But so weather, and I'll get your opinion on this and your thoughts. I don't want to steal all your thunder, but because I'm sure a lot of ours is similar. But when it comes to hunting hogs, people want to know what type of weather is better. First of all, I'm going to say, in my own personal experience, and this is from years of hog hunting at night primarily. I don't day hunt anymore pretty much at all, except when I'm chasing bucks that aren't ever going to come back out during the day. But, hunting hogs at night. So some conditions that I've noticed that are not good are, and you tell me if you know the same thing, Jason,
okay.
But the first one is when it's very windy outside. And I've noticed that if it is I think it goes beyond just, when you're coyote hunting on real windy nights, throwing your scent further away and more in, if you're in the bad direction of the wind, but it could be throwing that scent, your scent closer to them. But I've noticed when it's a really high windy night that I don't see as many hogs, or I don't, have the opportunity to get as many hogs as I normally would on a still night. So I think that, first of all, there's going to be a lot of people out here that will say, well, you know what, I went out the other day and it was 20-mile-an-hour wind, and I I shot a bunch of hogs. There's no rhyme or reason. I think what we're looking for, and I do study, as Jason said, the mood phases, weather. That's one of the things is I try to draw correlations between different factors in the weather, and it's something I pay a lot of attention to when I'm hunting. But that's one thing is really windy conditions that I found that sometimes if it's really windy, I'll still go out and hunt, but I'm not very excited about it because I just feel like I don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of animals don't move a lot in the big strong winds. Now, listen, if you're some guy who's in, the Midwest where you've got 20-mile-an-hour winds all the time, day and night, and that's a little bit different. Where we're at down here, especially in the South, with a lot of trees, wind is not the norm. I mean, just a normal. And no, we're talking about a breeze. We're talking about a wind. I mean, getting it. Strong and wind. I do agree. It seems to me like a lot of animals, they know that they're at a disadvantage of being able to hear well in the wind, strong winds. And I know, my daughter and I were out squirrel hunting yesterday, and we were seeing some squirrels. The wind picked up, started blowing, gone. So we couldn't find a squirrel. We walked for 2 miles. Well, they're up there hiding because they're at a huge disadvantage when they can't hear in the woods. And I think that goes for hogs too, because they don't see that well at night. And so I think wind is a big deal. Another thing that I would say, I think the obvious is probably rainy weather. I have seen hogs, obviously during rain out there. It doesn't really matter because I'm not going out there in the flood and rain. Right. But I don't think that's the best. Now I'm going to change it a little bit. I'm going to say when I think is good, unless you have something else bad weather. But I think right after a rain, after the rain and the storm has blown through. And, there just seems to be a good movement there. Maybe they've been, hunkered down during that rain, but I've seen a lot of hogs out rooting and feeding after a storm. And not just a front, like a cold front, which that helps too, but even in the summer after a rain.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've always looked for is if there's rain, I'm looking for what time the rain breaks. And that is, I think a lot of people will agree that after a rainstorm, the hogs are going to be more likely to hit the fields, and I'll tell you why. Hogs love grub worms and worms in the ground, and if you get a rain, that makes that ground a lot softer for them to dig in. Also, the rain brings all those worms up to the surface of the soil, so it makes it easier for them to root down there and get them. They're coming closer to the soil, and the soil's a lot moister and a lot easier to dig in. Is some of the reason why I think they hit the fields after the rain. But yeah, definitely rain.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to say hog hunting is very difficult in drought conditions. I have noticed when we had our big drought several years ago, the hogs seemed like they almost disappeared. And we are right now we're not in drought conditions, but our rain totals are quite a bit lower than they've been in the years in the past. And I have noticed a slowing down in activity of hogs that I've seen. Now, it might just be our areas. It might be more statewide, but I'm kind of keeping up with other people as well, and it definitely has slowed down. I think the correlation between the lack of rain or not as much rain as we've had in the past. Also, we're kind of getting into colder weather, and we'll talk about seasons here in a little bit, but dry, very dry. They're going to be down near the water sources, near sloughs, rivers, creeks, anywhere. They're going to be stuck usually down in the woods.
That's a good point. I'll say this. There is, our place is down mostly in a big creek bottom, and we've got this time of year, there's normally springs running all over, coming off all these big hills, down through our property, going to this big creek. They all feed into there. And right now, we're out there walking in the woods, squirrel hunting, deer hunting, and there is not one trickle of water running down at all any of these spring-fed little drains and creeks. And even the big creek, which a lot of times is getting out of its banks this time of year, you can step across it. And so I totally agree with that. I think it's changed a lot of things. Now we're talking about something that's, specific to right now, but I think that it can be that way. Do you want to get into the seasonal kind of deal, or do you want to stick on the weather? Because I
I do want to get in the seasons. And just to recap, I think the best weather conditions, I would say on a night, and we're talking primarily night, on a night that's, you're going to, I think, see more when it's not very windy, when it's, damp or you have more wet conditions after a rain. After a rainstorm is a good time to hit the fields and go out and start hunting. But as far as seasons, let's talk about, because that's another question that gets asked a lot too. What seasons?
And for me, weather and seasons, while they are two different things, I'm kind of rolling them into one. So it's hard for me to not bring up the seasons, because for me, and you may disagree here.
I do.
And and it may not be just because I see more hogs. It may just be because I like it better. But I don't like hunting necessarily when it's 20 degrees out, but I do prefer fall, winter, spring when it is cooler. I do see more hogs then. I think that when we get into, like you said, the summer, the droughts, it gets dry. I'm not hunting the hogs in the woods. I'm hunting them in open fields and pastures. And when it gets so dry that you can't hammer a nail out there in that clay, it doesn't do those hogs any good. There's no real reason for them to be out there rooting. So I do like cooler weather, and I feel like I see more hogs in fall, winter, and spring than I do heat of the summer.
Yeah, here, a lot of what we're talking about can't be backed up by science, but I think that this can. Hogs love acorns. It's one of their favorite sources of food. Acorns fall off the ground. They're over there.
Fall off the ground?
Fall off the trees onto the ground. That'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
So after fall, the hogs many times are, if you live in an area like we are, heavily wooded, lots of trees and everything, they're going to be in the woods for long periods of times, eating those acorns. They really don't have any necessary need to come out to the fields to get, dig up and root up. So they're eating all the acorns they have. Now, after they eat all the acorns, they start hitting the fields again. But when you talk about seasons, so in preparation for this show, I'm on my channel, Hansi, East Texas. Soon I'm coming out. My next video is going to be the best hog drops of 2019. So I went through and I looked at my catalog of videos for the year, which I save them all in date order. I shot the most hogs in September, October, and November. Those were my three out of the year. Those were the months that I shot the most hogs. So, I mean, that would mean, then I saw more hogs those 3 months than any other month. So that is right before heavy fall, when everything's falling off the trees onto the grounds. Yeah, the hogs, are staying in the woods. That's really right before leading up into that time. People will say, well, are they more likely to come out in the summer in the warm months? Are they more likely to come out in are they more lethargic in the high heat of summer, or are they more lethargic in the very, very cold weather? Honestly, when people ask me that, I really don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if there's really any way to know the answer to that question other than looking at my own, how many hogs I've killed in certain months and knowing that my busiest months were September, October, and November, and those are the fall, a little bit cooler, not really cold down here in Texas in those months.
Yeah, those hogs are going to feed no matter what. I mean, they're not going to go hibernate for 3 months because it's hot or because it's cold or because it's whatever. But again, we're not hunting hogs in the woods very much. I mean, we're generally hunting hogs, trying to get them out in fields. And I had somebody today ask me, said, well, you're always talking about hunting in fields. Why aren't you talking about hunting in the woods? You all have more woods than fields. And I said, I can go in the woods, bait hogs, get them there, but I'm only going to get one shot, and it's all over, and it's all said and done because they're in a small opening. And so I said, not worth it. I mean, you need to get them out in the fields. But, back to, I really do. I think that there's a lot to that. And I know this is going to sound silly, and this isn't going to apply for everywhere. But I think for here, I've seen this running a lot of not just cell phone cameras, but cell phone and just regular trail cameras. I mean, right now I've got out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've got out 7 or 8 trail cameras. Some of them are cell phone cameras. Well, I've got corn in probably 4 or 5 of those spots. I know we've got neighbors that are hunting half a mile away. They've got out some corn feeders. Well, what I'm seeing is the same group of hogs will be hitting every one of my feeders. They're moving around. And what I think is this time of year, at least here in Texas and a lot of the South where you can bait for deer, everybody's got feeders going. Well, that's just a free buffet for hogs.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that they're actually moving more because of that. Where I've had some people say, well, I think they don't have to move because they just hit that corn feeder twice a day. I think they're moving more. I think it's just like get it while you can, and it's free, easy pickings. And so I will see that group of hogs all over large areas. And I think they're crisscrossing, moving around.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you ask me what the best seasons are, and I'm going to this is my opinion based on my hunting experience and maybe different other places, I'm going to say it's spring, where it's the rainy conditions. I'm going to, early to mid-spring, and then I'm going to say fall. I think those are the two. I'm going to say those 2 seasons are the best seasons for hog hunting. I think the season we're in right now, it's been pretty slow, and I think deep summer, the climax of summer, I look back, it was some of my slower hog hunting months, but yep, I'm going to say it. Spring and fall, I think, are the best.
Yeah, and I'll close on that and agree, and I'll say one more quick thing. I think that one of the problems with this time of year is when it is wet. And when there are tons of acorns on the ground, is that they can stay in the woods and do all they need to do. They've got the food sources, and the ground is soft enough they can root, and they're not always able to do that in that spring, summer, fall. It's really that winter is normally the climax of the wet time for us. So I absolutely agree with that.
So I get calls from people all the time. They're like, hey, you need to come hunt hogs. I hear them in the woods. They're making all kinds of noise. And, you go over there and you don't see anything. Now, last night I went deep into the woods. I hiked about a mile back in the woods down in the swamp. And I didn't see anything on my walk in there, but I threw the collar down. I called for about half an hour. Didn't get nothing to come in. I mean, and this is the most, this looks like what you would call hog heaven. I mean, there's water everywhere. I mean, just lush, anything, foliage to eat or whatever they want to eat. It's all there, but didn't call anything in. But like I said, a lot of people ask that question, when's the best time of year to hunt? Really, the best time of year to hog hunt, anytime you can get out there. It is the best time of year to hog hunt. But I seem to have the best results in spring and fall. But the last topic, we've already talked about weather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't wait for this. I can't wait for us to go off and talk about something that's.
This is definitely a conspiracy theory here.
Exactly.
So we talked about weather. We talked about season. So if you don't know, on Instagram every week I put up a Texas prime evening hog hunting times. And it is basically, I am posting the best times that hogs are going to come out and feed. It is based 100% on lunar and solunar times. So the moon phases, different things like that. Now, there's a lot of people out there that think it's junk science. And there's a lot of people out there that if I am 2 hours late posting that timetable, they're like, hey, what are the times? I get the message all the time. People love it. And that's the only reason I keep doing it, because it is kind of a big pain in the butt to do it every week. And I got myself stuck on it. Now I have to do it. But people ask for it and people want it. Now, so what I have found, people talk about, well, how is it hunting in full moon conditions? You know, because people think, man, it's full moon, you can see and get around easier. You know, it's a little bit easier to see when you're trying to maneuver around and trying to get in a good shooting spot. You don't have to use as much night vision gear or thermal gear. What I have found, I hate hunting on bright moon nights. It just makes me mad if I have a free night to hunt and it's a bright moon night. What I have noticed is that primarily that hogs are coming out very, very late in the evening, early morning. I'm talking 3, 4, 5 in the morning, way after I'm in bed and thinking about the next day. You know, so people ask about hunting in full moon nights. To me, and what I've told people and what people have told me is that they come out very late during those times. I love hunting on a black moon where basically you don't see anything in the sky. It seems like those times when it does come around, they come out very early on the very dark evenings, and it's easier. Again, the full moon nights, when you're stalking up, it makes it easier for them to see you when you're stalking up to them. So I just like hunting under that dark cover. But what I've noticed is that if it's a bright moon, they're coming out late. If it's a dark night, they're coming out early. And that's typically how the lunar calendar matches up with the feeding times. It's funny to see it, but I've been studying this a long time, and I study it I've got a lot of cell cameras out, taking pictures. I take those pictures and I look at the times for the night to see if they're lining up. And many, many times, more often than not, the feeding times are matching up with the activity of the hogs on camera. And I will even tell you this, because every night the time gets 1 hour later. If you notice the timetable, it goes from one night, the start of the time might be 6 o'clock. The next night, it's going to be 6:45 or 7. The next night, 8 o'clock. And if you look at, and when I've done the study and when I've looked at my cameras, if I have a hog come at 6 o'clock, the next night he comes at 7 o'clock. It is crazy how it lines up. Now, some people say, well, I've got a hog that hits that camera at the same time every morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't matter what time of year or what the moon's doing. And yeah, there's just because that's the best feeding time doesn't mean, the hog's going to get up and eat when it's hungry. But just like, animals in nature and all other animals, people, even we eat on cycles, and that is just the hogs cycling through, because they'll come at 4 o'clock in the morning one week, the next week they'll come at 7 o'clock in the evening. And that's just the cycle. Their feeding cycles of when, their body tells them it's time to eat. It does, what I've noticed, it does match up with our feeding times that we post every week, the lunar and solunar feeding times, so much so that I get people message me all the time and say, man, this timetable is spot on. Now, right now, I am only doing it for Texas because I don't have... I lack the time and the room on my chart to add the whole United States. So I'm kind of being selfish with the Texas hog feeding times. But I know, man, if I stopped doing it, people would go crazy because, I'm very superstitious, and I know I'm rambling.
I was just about to say. So,
I am very superstitious.
We got to go back to that.
I'm one of those guys. I try to find connections in everything, to make something make sense in my head. I have to draw out some type of correlation, or I have a weird thing with numbers. I remember numbers like crazy, and I don't know why, but superstition, going back to my sports days. But if we were on our way to go fish and there were cows laying down, I'd be like, why are we even going? The cows are laying down, Well,
now that's legit. That's not superstition.
I know.
That's yeah.
But that's something I do. Some people think it's junk science. If that's the way that you feel, you don't have to use it. But man, there's a lot of people out there that use it, and I use it, and they say how accurate it is. And
here's what I would say to that. My dad was a big fisherman. He professionally fished before I was born. He, was a fishing guide, bass fisherman for many years, and again throughout my whole life was just a very avid fisherman. And he definitely liked reading the Salooner tables and kind of basing his stuff off of that. But he would always say, I'm going fishing either way.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
Friday afternoon is a great time to go fishing, I'm going fishing anyway, so that's good. But I'm going to go either way. So that's what I would say. But I do agree with you about the different moon phases and what's going on there with the bright moon and the no moon. I definitely see the same thing. And so I would definitely concur. What we're going to do is get a scientist on here to tell us that they have proof that we're wrong, and that's probably what's going to happen.
That's okay.
No, I concur with what you say.
None of this is scientific. None of this is proven by any person of any great knowledge other than me and you, which is kind of sad.
Dr. Hans says.
It makes me feel better. I do use it, and I use it every time. Now, you are 100% right. I'm going to hunt when I'm going to hunt. If the feeding times don't match up with when I'm going out to hunt, then so be it. But it does make me feel a little bit better when it does line up. And
and if you can only go one night, if you only got one chance and tonight's terrible and tomorrow's supposed to be great, hey, why not just go tomorrow? Well, I mean, if it's all the same.
The good news is this whole week, the feeding times are very, very early this week. So in Texas, they start at 5 o'clock. I think by the end of the week, it's going to be, and this is the first week in January 2020. So if you're watching this in 8 months, you're like, this doesn't do me good. But I think they go up to about 10 o'clock the starting times. So
well, I don't know if it's worth anything, and this is I don't know how accurate for your science this is going to be, but I've seen hogs in my pasture the last 2 nights before 9 p.m., and I haven't seen hogs in my pasture in about a month and a half at least. So that's much earlier than I would have expected. So folks,
the point is proven, right? So that means it works.
That's exactly. We just scientifically proved it with a very large sample size of 2 nights. So if
y'all want to prove us wrong, it probably wouldn't be very hard, but it makes me feel better.
Well, hopefully this helps a little bit. I think, Hans and I will both say, go hunting when you can go when you can get out, and have fun whenever that is. But I do think there are certain weather conditions and seasons that do make it easier. I know it makes it easier on us if it's not freezing cold and if it's not 110. I like it better. I don't know about the hogs.
I will never complain about hunting in the summer ever again after sitting out in 27 degrees when you and I went out. I'll never complain about hot weather again.
And I know our northern listeners are going right now. I was hunting, and they're thinking a bunch of pansies, but it's cold.
It is true. We are pansies when it comes to cold weather.
We are. That's right. Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you learned something. Maybe you didn't learn anything. Maybe we de-educated you, and that's fine. You can leave a comment and tell us that too. But anyway, we hope that maybe you gleaned a little bit of something out of there, or at least were entertained for the last 30 minutes, if nothing else. We appreciate y'all watching, as always. Again, I am Jason, owner of Outdoor Legacy. So if you're looking for any kind of night vision or thermal, we would love to have your business. It would be a great honor, and you can check us out at outdoorlegacygear.com. You can give us a call at 877-350-1818 if you're looking to make a purchase and you got questions first. Hans and I would be glad to talk to you and help you out there and answer any questions that we can. The Late Night Vision Show, you're already here, so you found us, but just be sure to subscribe on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast app, any of those, subscribe so that you get notifications every time that we put out a new show, which is every Thursday. And you can find everything about the show at thelatenightvision.show.com. And you can see all the links to the past episodes. You can find links to us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all those good places. So anyway, check us out there.
Yeah, so if you comment to this video and you say you feel dumber about hog hunting now. After listening to this episode, I'm blaming it all on Jason. It was all his idea to do this show.
That's exactly right. There you go. I'll take the blame.
I want to give you a small piece of congratulations. Our YouTube channel, the Late Night Vision Show, just crossed over 2,000 subscribers.
Wow.
So it was a nice little feat, a little milestone to get over. So we're well on our way to 1 million subscribers. Well on our way.
Very soon. Very soon.
Very soon.
Please subscribe, because if we're waiting on that, we're going to be old men.
Yeah. Oh gosh. So please check out my YouTube channel. That's Hans ETX. Hans ETX, just like the letters East Texas. And this, I already mentioned it earlier, but I'm posting my best hog drops of 2019. That's coming up here in the next week. And the week after that, best coyote drops of 2019. And it's going to be a lot of work putting all that stuff together, but it is always a fun time to go back and see all the old videos. There's going to be dozens and dozens and dozens of videos of hog kills and coyote kills. So go check that out on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram at HansETX. And thank y'all for watching. This has been episode 87, best hunting, hog hunting times, best weather, best seasons for getting the job done. Join us next week for episode 88. We look forward to seeing y'all again. Take care, stay safe in the fields, and keep making them bacon pancakes.